Welcome to my blog Parenting Pages. Today's video will be about what questions you might ask your provider when choosing one, when choosing a new hospital, and I'll be talking about the experience of what questions were useful for me to ask, how I went with this team. So to start with, from the beginning, I didn't know much about pregnancy or giving birth, birthing, postpartum. I didn't have that experience before. It was the first pregnancy. And as I was waiting for the appointment with my provider, I started learning a lot from different books. I started reading lots of resources, going through courses, which I will mention in the description of this video, what kind of exactly books helped me to form this question. That was initial understanding. It's interesting though, when you start reading books, you read one book and you think, wow, that's really useful information. I hope I'm not going to forget this when I going to be giving birth. But I think what I realized is that first, knowledge does not give you a sense of control, but rather helps you to understand that you actually have to give away the control, give up the control, because this is so important for giving birth. And another thing to mention here is that it is very important to choose the team that you are birthing with, because there'll be those people who are going to have some sort of um, advice over the situation. You will be giving birth together with your baby. There's the advisors, there's the supporters, they are your help. Sometimes medical interventions are also necessary, and we have all this wonderful medicine, and sometimes it really truly saves life, and such procedures as C-sections are necessary. And nonetheless, our vision was that if it's possible, we hoped for giving birth vaginally, and for different reasons, because it is um, natural, because this would give the baby a better microbiome. This is some sort of experience that I would want to go through, and and having all these thoughts brought us to the idea of going with birthing with a midwife, and we went with a midwife group, wonderful midwife group. For first 3 months, usually, you do not do much. You wait for baby to develop a little bit more until you have your first appointment with the doctor. Um, so I had my first appointment, and I didn't know the midwife. I didn't know her that much, even though she's a midwife. I didn't exactly know what kind of ideas she has around giving birth. What is her opinion? What are her strategies? Do we click? Because sometimes it's not logical. Sometimes you just feel like, I don't think I can go with this person. And that's all right as well, because you'll be with this person, or sometimes it's a group, for 9 months, and then throughout birthing. And that's why it's really, really important to form the team around you, to form the supportive environment around you, as your ideally your neocortex is going to switch off as much as you can, and you allow your body to give birth. Um, and hopefully it's going to be a beautiful, wonderful experience, remember, for years. So when I was pregnant, I started a diary. So this is my pregnancy diary, and in this diary I wrote down some questions that I asked my provider at the first meeting that we met. She's a wonderful, wonderful provider. I was so happy to go through my pregnancy with her, and I wish you also to find the providers that you trust, and that will that will be part of a great team during your birth, during the birth of your baby. The first general question you might ask, and the first question that I asked is very broad. I ask, what is your plan for giving birth? What are the tactics that you use? This is a very broad question. The provider might have a very short answer, a very long answer. I think this question is just to give you an idea of the provider's person, the way how she talks, what her ideas are, what her methods are. If she's very medical and that's what you want, maybe that's what works for you. A more directive style, where when she tells you this is what you should be doing, this is how you should go through things, and that's also fine as long as it works for you. Maybe you want to have a little bit more of control throughout the pregnancy, because of course, you're the one who is carrying the baby, and maybe you've learned a lot. Maybe you've had some experience. Maybe you have pregnancies before. You know what works for you specifically, and then that's important. So your ideas align with the ideas of the provider. Um, so that's the first questions that you might ask. Then the next question is the ones that I asked is what is the maximum amount of weeks that the provider would be comfortable to wait? Because on average, this is very general time. The pregnancy goes for around 40 weeks, even though we know that it is very normal to give birth from 37 to 42 weeks. So in my opinion, for me, through learning different resources, going through different pages, information, books, courses, I, together with my husband, we thought that we would be ready if pregnancy goes well. We check the baby. If everything is all right and she's healthy, we would wait as long as 42 weeks. And some providers do not feel comfortable about that. Some providers are really against that. Some providers would be as comfortable as being fine of 43 weeks. And that's really important because she'll be part of your team. And really, when you think this is a great provider, but she says, I do not recommend to go over 40 weeks, then you might have some challenges if it happens that pregnancy goes for 41 weeks, 42 weeks, because it happens sometimes. And at that point, you're already very nervous. You're usually when women are at around 40 weeks, there is some sort of nervousness. You hope the babies can come soon. And if the provider adds to this stress, even though you're super confident, this might shake your confidence. That's why it is very important to discuss. I think this question is very important. I asked if it is okay, if, in her opinion, to eat throughout contractions, because I knew for myself that I would need energy, I would need to eat food when there are contractions. I didn't know if I would, but if I would be able, then I wouldn't want to have limitations to that. Some of the hospitals do not welcome this, but my provider said that that would be totally normal, totally fine, and I was happy about that because, again, during birthing, when you are at the hospital, it's not the best time to figure out that, oh, apparently this is the policy of the hospital and you have to write something to decline this recommendation or whatsoever. So it's better to figure it out before you start this journey with your provider. I asked if there will be a mandatory fetal monitoring. For me, that was very important. If the pregnancy goes healthy, if the baby's healthy, all the signs are good. For me, that was very important to be able to move throughout birth, because I knew that this will be experience where we work as a team, big team, me, baby, everyone else, and I really wanted to be able to move around the way that my body would tell me, the way that the baby would give me signs, what's working for her. So for me, that was very important. And mm, I think something you can ask also. It's usually necessary after epidural. Again, strategies about epidural. When would they recommend? Would it be okay to decline? Those questions are really good. Um, First of all, of course, it's important for you to understand what you want for yourself. I asked about golden hour, if it's common, if there's skin to skin, and they do have skin to skin, and she said that would be very normal. So I was very happy about that, because some of the hospitals still don't have this, and you can ask also for vaginal birth and for C-section, because um, some hospitals allow after C-section as well to have some time skin to skin, which I think is really important for all this cocktails of hormones and just to bond with your baby, to fall in love. And there's a lot of data, a lot of writing on this, why it is important. This first minutes of seeing the baby, of your baby seeing you, latching, um, so many reasons for that. And so this is a good question. I believe it was good for me to ask. I asked about the umbilical cord cutting and what her ideas are about that. And she mentioned that around 30 seconds would be the times that they would wait normally. I believe that for myself, it was good and appropriate to have the umbilical cord become completely pale so that all the blood is transferred to the baby. And when I gave birth, it happened. We waited until it got pale. We didn't count those seconds. My husband cut the umbilical cord. That was beautiful. That's beautiful. Umbilical cord is absolutely beautiful. It is such as it's just I don't have words to describe it. It's really magnificent and beautiful how it looks, plus how placenta and umbilical cord looks, and then the baby is attached to all of that. Such an incredible system. Um, so I asked about what their strategies about what do they do with the baby when the baby's born. Do they wipe the child right after giving birth? Do they give a bath after giving birth? All those questions you probably would want to ask. If that is important for you. For me, that was important because of the microbiome. I would want to have minimal interactions with the skin. If there is vernix, I would want this vernix to moisture the skin. I wouldn't want to give baby a bath or too much, uh, or um, too much wiping. So sometimes it is good because there's still some blood. So light wiping is good, but everybody decides for themselves. So for me, that was a good question to ask, because again, during you just gave birth, you don't want to be arguing whether it's okay to do that or whether it's not okay to do that. We brought our own swaddles with the microbiome from our home, and the nurses were very positive about it. They were like, it's gonna get dirty, but we're like, that's fine. So we did that. I was very happy I asked the question, and that helped me navigate when we got to the hospital. So I asked about the vaccines at birth and about the antimicrobial eye medicine after birth, whether it is whether like we were still deciding, do we want to do that, do we not want to do that after right when she gives right when she's born. So I even have this in my notes. It needs investigation, so everybody decides for themselves, but for me it was very important to know her opinion, what like what she insists, what she not insist, and she didn't insist on many things, but she I think that gave me a clear idea of whether it's gonna be a good team. So then I asked about the position of the baby for delivery, um, and what are the ways, how do they operate, and is it all right to give birth with transverse position, and like do if baby sleep, if there's so many possibilities, and of course there are not so many possibilities, but there are different cases, and if the baby does not have head down, um, what could be the strategies that they do, because I thought there are some experts on giving birth in different positions, but I think what is very important is that if your provider has this experience, if this team has the experience, because if you think it's possible and then they say no, we don't do that, we don't have that experience, and they won't do that because uh, it's also not the safest option for you, um, and if the baby maybe doesn't and flip, maybe you can consider another provider, but at that point you probably it will be hard to switch the providers, because it will be already like at the end of the pregnancy. So it's really some of the questions like this are a little bit more particular. You see if you're comfortable to go with the with this ideas. Um, so I asked about the umbilical cord around the baby, if that during birthing, that's all right, if they still deliver, and that was totally fine. I asked about gardening because that was important for me, because I do gardening, and because of the risk of toxoplasmosis, some of the resources do not recommend gardening. My provider was totally fine with that. She's like, yeah, just use gloves. So I did that, and it brought me lots of joy. I'm happy I did that. I kept gardening. I was careful, of course, using gloves and so on. And I asked about the hospital itself. I asked if there are cases that the room is um, there's no room to give birth, and there may be too many people who give birth. And believe it or not, it happens sometimes. So that's something good to ask, how often that happens in your hospital, and what does it do in this case. I think another good question is to understand if the provider has a percentage or some data on how what is the percent on of C-sections in your hospital. If C-section is not something that you would want to go from the start, if you really want to go with vaginal birth or want to go with natural birth, then if the percent of C-section is very high, then you might have some questions. Why is it high in this specific hospital? And you might look around what is the percentages in different hospitals in your area, or if you need to go somewhere else where it's maybe more um, like less C-section friendly, more natural birth friendly. And so this question I think is very interesting, but also going to the epidural, going to the oxytocin, ask about if they have any data, how many patients get epidural, how many get oxytocin, if it is something really common or if it is not very common, how many patients give birth without any medication. Is it something rare? Is it something that you want? If it's something that you want, that it's a good question. Um, then I asked about if there's an option to does the hospital offer free lactation classes, and they do. So in my hospitals they did. I was a wonderful lactation consultant. I think that's usually the nurses can give you also an idea about the latch. I asked the nurses as well. For me, it was a tough journey of lactation. For everyone is different. I will have another video on lactation, which I think is really interesting for everyone. It really is different, and hopefully your journey is going to be smooth. Um, So, but the lactation consultant is really good, especially, first days are important. Then I think even after that, it's not to the something that you probably would ask your provider, but it's off topic. But I think if you have troubles with lactation, having a lactation consultant after giving birth is even more important than the first couple days when you're in the hospital, because usually that's when the problems start, if they have, if there are any problems. And then I asked about if they usually give bath. No, I asked about if they have bath for the birthing mother, for a woman who gives birth in the hospital, not giving birth to the baby, but if there's a tub, right? And there are not so many rooms, so sometimes they have a room with tub, sometimes they don't have a room. But if it's something that you would want, it's something good to ask. I asked if there are any tours in the hospital, and they, in my case, it didn't have any tours because of COVID. It's 2025, year 2025. They still have these restrictions, and in the area, there are not so many hospitals that would allow to give you a tour, which I found a little which of course I would prefer to have a tour. Of course, I would love to go and see how the rooms look. Of course, I wouldn't go to the room of a birthing mom, but I would love to go into the rooms and to see, and maybe before giving birth, in those months before giving birth, to imagine how that would happen, to imagine that room. But some of the hospitals, they have videos of how it looks inside. They have maybe a class, a free class that you can watch, which is also very helpful because it gives you an idea of what's going to be there. I asked about my husband, if there would be any restrictions for him, if there's any visiting hours, if he can have a place to sleep there, stay there overnight. I Since I gave birth in the winter time, for me that was very important to understand if it will be warm. If this is going to be, if I need to bring any heater, like really, there are no silly questions. If you have questions that you want to ask and it's important for you, just ask. And if you are hesitant to ask this question to your provider, maybe you have to think about why you're hesitant about that, why you're shy about asking your providers. Is this because you're a shy person, or because you don't feel comfortable with this provider? I asked in what cases would C-section be necessary, to understand what her ideas are. And I asked who would perform a C-section if there is a necessity for this. Because I gave birth on the same floor where midwives and OBs performed. So for me, that was very reassuring. That was best combo for me, because in case if I needed C-section, I knew that there were qualified people to do this, and this gave me some sort of consolation that there is a backup plan always for that, and I'd be there in good hands. Then I asked about the epidural and oxytocin. Also, when does the provider think that would be necessary, when she would recommend? A good question to ask. Also, the strategy about what to do if the water breaks first. Some providers prefer not to wait too long. Some providers are fine with waiting a little longer. So how many hours you would feel comfortable to wait that should align with your provider's idea, because at the moment when the water breaks, if the water breaks before contractions start and your provider doesn't want to wait too long, that would be another stressful point for you. And stress is not good during giving birth. It slows down the contractions, slows down the process. Stress is really, it's really not recommended thing when you give birth. So the team is really important. Who's going to be with you there? That is why I believe those questions are all that were important for me, of course, throughout the all the visits, 9 months. I had many questions every time. I would come with my phone and I would have in the notes a list of questions. In the last in the night on the ninth month, the questions decreased. We had a birth plan. I worked through this birth plan. We worked through it together, really. And there will be another video on the birth plan, what would work for me and what might work for somebody else who would wish to give birth naturally, especially if the baby, all the signs, all the checkups with the baby are going well. And I believe those questions are important to ask, and just sometimes it's just about what you feel with how you feel with this provider, how you feel telling her your concerns, if you feel comfortable, um, because your team is it's I think really during birth what's important is to turn off your neocortex, let your body do the work, and that knowledge that you are in good hands, that this is a team that really cares for you and they're going to do best of what you wish to do, then this is going to give you more sense of, okay, I can let it go. I'm going to focus on birthing. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to let my body do the work. And then your team is going to help you to offer you different paths on the birthing journey. And I wish everyone a smooth birth and a beautiful pregnancy. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that the video was useful for you. And I also welcome you on the page to check out more videos on this channel. And just know that you are the best mom for your baby, and enjoy, because this time truly goes fast. I know I heard it many times when I was pregnant, and as baby grows, they say, enjoy, this time goes so fast. And that is so true, because one day you're struggling through postpartum, and another day you see the baby crawling. And I give you hugs and hope to see you at the next video. If you have any valuable questions that might help others, you can leave them in the comments below, and wishing you a nice day.